All right, back here at John Hart. We got a lot of cool stuff planned. I'm talking to John a lot off recording. Certainly, you guys saw a bunch of videos with him on recording. Very popular guest. He's a friend of mine. Really introduced me back into high intensity training. And we'll get into this here a little bit, probably in this first question here, coming up a little bit. I've been wavering a little bit. That seems to be what other people have kind of discussed, but not to do, I want to do him justice again. I would say that John is up there, if not the number one advocate in high intensity training. I say that for a number of reasons, but mostly if you guys look at his credentials, check back old videos, check his bio. He is extremely credentialed, learned directly under the great Mike Mentzer. Of course, needs no introduction there. And also, you can actually you can just remind us of this too, John, because I'll butcher this. But what did you do with Mike Mentzer? Industries or that whole company, just so people know about the credentials in that.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah. When Mike had passed in 2001, uh, eventually Joanne Sharkey had inherited everything Mike Mentzer, everything heavy duty. And she hired me the last 11 years, 12 years of her life to run the consultations. Mike had an online consultation business, it was worldwide. And so I handled that. So they were based originally on phone calls, but then we altered it to be email based, and that worked quite well as well. So they had a detailed record over time of what we were talking about.
Yeah, I know people said in one video, someone said, this is one person of many, was like, well, Mike should stay in his lane and, stop taking, stuff off other people's names. I don't think you do that. You don't run with Mike Mentzer all the time. But
Right.
if anyone's got, it makes perfect sense to me. I mean, if anyone's got credence to kind of run with high intensity training, you learning in the trenches, also doing it yourself. And I'll mention, we'll get into this here, you have your own approach to high intensity training that is not just copy and paste using Mike Mentzer. So I just want to say that up front if you want to respond to that, but I just want to get that out there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's very true. First of all, I'm not offended. I'll let everybody know. I've worked quite a bit when you've been in YouTube for a while at becoming less offended. If not offended, that would be great, right? Uh, so I'm not offended. Everybody can have their opinion, and that's fine. The fact of the matter is that my association with Mike Mentzer and Heavy Duty is undeniable. It's a part of my history. So on my channel and on a lot of the content that I have, it's based off of his principles originally. It's no different than somebody having been, trained by Arnold Schwarzenegger at one point in time. Of course, all of their training is going to be based off of what they learned from him originally, right? So in my case, that is the case. And high intensity training, if using Mike Mentzer's image or his pictures, which by YouTube copyright law as well, I can do that, and it attracts some more attention to high intensity training for the sake of those who might want to use it, then I'll do that. It's my prerogative to do that. So over time, me being who I've been and having taught heavy duty to clients, from not just in my own practice with clientele, but also for MikeMentzer.com and heavy duty training and Joanne Sharkey after Mike Mentzer passed, having taught for 12 years, again, if somebody wants me to take it out of my mouth, then they're going to have to find some other way for that to happen, because in reality, it's just part of who I am and what I do with regards to high intensity training and training clients who I train to this day.
Well, let's talk about the whole trend of high intensity training. You made some videos talking about, is high intensity training dead? What is your state? Well, two-part question. I said I wasn't going to do this, but I'm going to do it right now. Throw it to you and you can take it. But what do you think of this trend of high intensity training rising and peaking? Do you think it's still holding the line, or do you find that it's just going to be, I don't think you want it to be this way, obviously, but is it just another trend that's kind of going to ride and then fall? And I'll speak for myself personally. A part of that trend, and I like to kind of dabble, jump back and forth to things that's be day one. I'm going to try it, see what happens. I've since kind of fallen off it, not because I didn't like it. I really enjoyed it, but I also loved kind of training a little more frequently. I got more, also for the sake of review. I'm reviewing stuff constantly, trying out new toys. So I knew that was going to be a problem inherently, but it was something I knew I'm going to dabble in on and off. So what do you think behind this current state of high intensity training? Do you find it kind of being a trend? And what do you find people, how are people kind of going on and off the wagon, or you feel like it's more or less sustainable for most people?
Okay, good one. First of all, your experience is quite common. I think that it's human nature to a degree where if you go ahead and you try high intensity training, much like trying some other program, Vince Gironda's 8 sets of 8, or, I'm just picking one out of the air right there. Okay. If you see a program that interests you and makes sense to you and you want to give it a fair shot, then you're going to do that. And doing so over time and gaining a greater understanding of it, hopefully it becomes part of your arsenal long term, because that's always been my message, right? Through my channel at Mr. America Heart, but also when I've done interviews with you and anybody else, is that it's a long haul. Okay. It's most definitely a long haul. And you have to have some sort of interest, high interest in going to the gym, and basing it upon what your personal likes and dislikes are. Once you get past those initial few years where maybe you are interested in hypertrophy, growing as much muscle as possible, maybe even competing, if that's the case at the beginning, then you do the things necessary to get there. However, over time, that might not be so enjoyable for everybody, you see. So for some people, it is about, hey, I have family. Hey, I don't want to invest in a lot of equipment for my garage gym. Hey, I have the sliding bench. Look, I'm pointing at you. Hey, I have a sliding bench. Hey, maybe Mike has a whole routine that I can do on that. And yeah, you're going to give them a whole routine. And maybe they really enjoy doing a workout like that and feel great. And they get enough of a look to their body that that's satisfactory to them. And whatever the individual really needs, that's what's going to keep, and what they like, those two things, need and like. So at some point in time, like and lifestyle are going to kind of override your initial desire to look like a bodybuilder or to be on stage or to, maybe it's just drop 150 pounds and you want to do the best way possible. But then, even then, your routines and your goals will change over time. As far as the other part of your question, high intensity training, yeah, I did that video, Hit is Dead, a few years back. And that was prior to this big upswell of high intensity training, right? I'm talking a lot with my hands today, so I hope y'all don't mind. It's the Italian part of me, Mike. It's just in there. It's going to come out. If we can say, and we do agree, that through the internet, through YouTube, through the interest of an actual younger crowd, I can see it through my analytics on my channel. My subscriber base has shifted dramatically, radically, from a lot of over 40 individuals to now I have a majority of the biggest group, on my analytics, they're between age 24 and 44.
Wow.
So the younger crowd, for sure. And I've done a video on this as well, that you young guys out there, you young guys, I'm talking to you. Keep it going, because you're on the right path. There was always a good foundational community or HIT community, or older crowd that's about 50 plus, that goes back to the 90s, the 2000s, maybe even earlier than that, 70s and 80s, when Mike Mentzer was competing, Arthur Jones teaching people. That crowd was rather small in nature, a few thousand people around the world, still to this day training that way with high intensity training techniques. Okay, these are very brief, short workouts, high intensity in nature, not done too frequently. Okay, generally with a lot of effort. We can talk about that later. But the main point is, they were a small community, and as the years have gone by, there was nobody representing them. That was the point of my whole video, Hit is Dead, is that years ago we had Mike Mentzer, years ago we had Dorian Yates, years ago we had Arthur Jones. These were big advocates. Dorian Yates never spoke as much as Arthur Jones, but Dorian had 6 Mr. Olympia titles, so he had a platform. Mike Mentzer had both pro bodybuilder, magazine coverage, the ability to speak. He can go out there and do seminars. Arthur Jones, probably the least, most unassuming of the three as far as physical stature goes, but he could speak, and he had that equipment, the original Nautilus equipment that went around the world at one point through the 70s, and then it hung around through the 80s and 90s. Even to this day, you can find some of that equipment. So the nature of the exposure of high intensity training, everything is based on exposure. Okay. And that was my point, was that with that kind of dying off, with no representatives as we got into the 2000s, with no high level bodybuilders, no high level even media personality. Okay. I can't take credit for that. On my YouTube channel, I don't have millions and millions and millions of subscribers yet. Through the pushing of my courses too, they can get some exposure to some good high intensity training as well. But the main point is that in the last 2 years, the interest from that crowd, that 24 to 44 age group crowd, and I don't know, I haven't talked directly to many of them and asked them why, but it'll be an interesting video to make to ask them why they're interested in high intensity training, because they're the ones who drove the algorithm in YouTube to start pumping up everything Mike Mentzer, all my videos. Oh my gosh. All of a sudden I had, 250,000 view videos, 50,000 view videos, 100,000 view videos that they were sitting around. The algorithm picked them up again and shot them through the roof. So that's really what happened. So is HIT dead? No. At the time when I shot that first video, didn't look too good, but it was on its last breaths, Mike. Yeah, I'm not kidding. It was gasping for air, and then suddenly in the last 2 years, it's really kicked up through YouTube, and the algorithm has picked up a lot of us and the videos that we've done on this, and the ones I continue to do on it, because I have more to say. I have a whole encyclopedia up here that is kicking and coming out now in the form of my courses. I know I'm hawking my courses, and it's a shameless plug. So anyway.
Well, this is practically, I think it works. I believe it works. There's no question. If I was looking for like a really efficient system, I for sure will go back to it again. And actually, I do go back. There's some days it's a limited time or something's coming up, or even just one body part. I'm like, I'll hit this one thing really hard, and whatever. But what I discovered with myself, and I think we talked about this a little bit, and I think I want to hear your take on this too, is that for practically, I think there's something psychologically, and I've heard HIT advocates, kind of poo-poo on high volume people because they're thinking, well, this is half of your training is all psychological. You need to do something. And while I think that's a fair argument, I also think there's some merit to the fact that we are human beings meant to move our bodies. The vast majority of us have sedentary jobs. The vast majority of entertainment and leisure is extremely sedentary. We're not working in farms anymore. So aside from like getting out on a treadmill, maybe walking your dog or doing some cardiovascular activity, I know for me, even though there's days I wouldn't say the word overtrained, I'd say more overreaching because I'm not wiped out. There are some days like when I'm doing, covering equipment, I'm doing multiple stuff, working hard, but I just feel like I want to do that. Almost like I don't have a farm to work on. I don't have a lot of stuff to, manual labor to fix. So there's something therapeutic about picking up weight and doing that pump, getting in the zone, not going to that point of your brains are going to pop out type of stuff, which I find is that those are two different training sessions. You're working hard in a different way. It's not just someone says, I wouldn't say an ultra marathoner is working out, is not working hard, but like all these, like the David Goggins guy, for example, obviously he's notorious, like the hardest working, guy out there running a lot of cardio. That's hard work, but it's a different level of hard. It's by nature low intensity given the duration of like ultra marathons and what you're doing, but it's just a different level of work, I guess is my point. So I think some people have these different levels of, I don't know, how do you balance that? If someone were to say, I love HIT principles, maybe it's just not for them. If you want to do something every day and get a pump and just move your body, feel that level of soreness. I wouldn't promote soreness, but I love going to bed at night when you feel like, and everyone, I think every guy appreciates that too. I worked hard today. Of course, on a HIT workout day, you'd feel that, but there's something about that going to bed sore, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like you work.
that's a really, really great observation you just made there, is that kind of brings it back to you have to define where the person is at. Okay. The individual who's watching this right now might just be all poo-pooing the whole high intensity training thing. And for them, it may be they love getting the pump. They love going to the gym, and they love the social aspect of it, and they love going every day for that matter. And I can't, I'm not going to argue with you. It's your life, I mean, choose to do with your life what you want,
Right.
It's the moment you say things like, well, it's better than what I do. Well, in which way? In what respect? What platform are you speaking from? What perspective are you speaking from? Are you speaking from the perspective of it's better in the way that I can have a life? Are you speaking from the perspective of, like you just did, You've tailored it to your lifestyle. You have days because hybrid resistance is going to, do reviews on multiple pieces of equipment in a 2 week period. You may be giving an effort on some of that equipment that does not exactly align with your personal workout in those 2 weeks. And so because of that, yeah, of course, you're going to have to adjust your training. Yeah. And you're doing that because this is the road you've chosen. Uh, myself at one point or another, and even now as I'm going into another phase, with Mr. America Heart and, the HIT training community that I have, that have bought my courses, I want to give to them more. So this part is about giving and being a little bit more successful in doing so. I realized that some of the material that I'm shooting, and I have been doing, middle of the night training sessions, with my son spotting me and some things like that, that I will not put up. This is the exclusive content. Again, this is a shameless plug, but it's making the point. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm making a shameless plug, but it is making the point is that I have to have some exclusive content to put on my community section that no, it's not available publicly. No, I don't put it on my main video feed for my YouTube channel. This is exclusive for you. And so that's the way it's being set up. That's the way I plan on doing it. Now, does that mean that my training might be affected at times? Well, yeah, because, to be honest with you, John, I'll speak about John in the third person. John really likes working out at 6 o'clock in the morning on the nose. However, John has a day gig still. Okay.
You're gonna be laughing. I'm thinking of the Seinfeld episode.
George is getting upset.
Yeah.
Hey, originally I'm from New York, so Seinfeld, everything's Seinfeld. Okay,
Yeah.
I know every episode.
Yeah.
George is getting angry.
Yeah.
But
Exactly.
the bottom line is that the optimal thing for me is to be physically on point, but also mentally in gear with everything that I'm doing. Now that's optimal. Okay, spiritually as well. You and I are both, men of faith, and we relate on that term as well. For those of you out there watching this, you would too. So if we can pull that together in an optimal format, that would be great. For a time period, though, I'm in the middle of shooting a lot of videos right now. As I just said, my weekends are full. Middle of the night is full. I'm trying to get maximum sleep in between all of that. And in doing so, I'm sacrificing something for sure. Is it optimal? No, not at all. But I have to accommodate it right now for the sake and for the name of, giving out some good material that I really want to. It's a fun project for me. So again, like you doing what you do, you chose to do the good garage gym type review of equipment and have been very successful at it. And so right now, you have to adjust your training for that.